The web of psychological and ideological foundations. At the turn of the 20th century, psychology emerged as a field deeply interwoven with evolutionary biology, philosophical speculation, and ideological manipulation. Each of these components contributed to an increasingly fractured understanding of humanity, both as individuals and as collective societies. Freud's psychoanalysis and Darwinian influence. Freud, heavily influenced by Darwinian concepts, painted human psychology as a landscape of inherited traits and primal drives. The Oedipus complex, the primal horde theory, and Freud's deterministic view of behavior all underscore a grim picture of human nature as governed by internal chaos. Freud's work not only laid the foundation for modern therapy, but also introduced unsettling frameworks that were later exploited to justify systemic hierarchies and societal control. Otto Rank's birth trauma. Rank added an existential layer to Freud's psychoanalysis, emphasizing the inherent dread of existence that begins with birth itself. His view of creativity as a coping mechanism for existential anxiety mirrors Freud's focus on repression. But Rank's insights also foreshadow psychological strategies used to manipulate fear and vulnerability, key tools for those seeking to destabilize societal structures. Bernays and the psychology of manipulation. Bernays weaponized Freudian principles, applying them to mass communication to influence public opinion on an industrial scale. His propaganda techniques, underpinned by evolutionary ideas of survival and dominance, contributed to a culture of psychological manipulation that has reverberated through advertising, politics, and social engineering. Bernays' legacy highlights the dark potential of psychological insights as tools of control rather than empowerment. Jung's archetypes and shadows. Jung's collective unconscious and shadow archetype introduced humanity to the idea of confronting its repressed fears and instincts. This exploration of the psyche's darker layers connects to broader societal efforts to expose hidden structures of power and inequality, as seen in frameworks like CRT. However, Jung's work also underscores the inherent risks of delving into the shadow, the potential for fragmentation and destabilization when underlying tensions are unearthed. Thelema and Crowley's esoteric destabilization. Aleister Crowley's philosophy of Thelema, with its emphasis on individual will and moral relativism, provides a striking parallel to the destabilizing effects of early psychological theories. Crowley's rejection of conventional morality and spirituality echoes Freud's subversion of traditional norms and the Jesuits' dismantling of indigenous religiosity in South America. Crowley's self-identification as the Beast 666 and his rituals further illustrate the disruptive potential of ideologies that prioritize personal freedom over collective cohesion. Crowley's magic, which involves psychological techniques like visualization and trance induction, mirrors the manipulative strategies employed by figures like Bernays. His influence on countercultural movements and the broader rejection of hierarchical systems demonstrates the enduring impact of esoteric philosophies on societal fragmentation. The Jesuits and dismantling religious structures. The Jesuits in South America pursued a subtle but profound strategy of destabilization, targeting indigenous religious and social hierarchies. By framing native practices as oppressive, they introduced narratives of systemic inequality that justified their interventions. This approach parallels the psychological manipulation seen in Bernays' propaganda and the ideological reframing central to CRT. Rather than enforcing European religiosity, The Jesuits dismantled traditional beliefs and replaced them with a fractured, hybrid system that eroded indigenous autonomy. This strategy echoes Crowley's rejection of conventional morality, Freud's subversion of cultural norms, and Jung's confrontation with the shadow, all efforts to destabilize established systems in pursuit of transformation. Critical race theory, a modern tool of division. Critical race theory, CRT, while emerging as a response to systemic racism, carries the potential for similar destabilization. By emphasizing systemic oppression and the constructed nature of power dynamics, CRT challenges traditional societal structures, including religious and cultural norms. In socialist contexts, CRT's focus on inequality can undermine unity and collective identity, creating ideological vacuums reminiscent of the Jesuits' interventions. The parallels between CRT and earlier psychological frameworks reveal a recurring pattern: the use of intellectual constructs to deconstruct existing systems. Whether through Freud's psychoanalysis, Jung's archetypal exploration, or Crowley's esoteric philosophies, the focus on uncovering hidden truths often leads to fragmentation rather than cohesion. Darwin's racist legacy and its reverberations. Darwin's racial hierarchies, embedded in The Descent of Man, provided the pseudo-scientific basis for much of this dismantling. By categorizing certain groups as less evolved, Darwin's ideas justified colonial exploitation, systemic oppression, and the dehumanization seen in Nazi ideologies and eugenics programs. These hierarchies influenced Freudian psychology, social Darwinism, and later critical frameworks like CRT, which continue to grapple with their implications. A coalescence of division. The psychological and ideological components discussed, Freud's psychoanalysis, Ranke's trauma, Bernays' manipulation, Jung's shadows, Crowley's destabilization, the Jesuits' dismantling, Darwin's hierarchies, and CRT's critiques, form a complex web of interconnected ideas. Together, they reveal a legacy of both enlightenment and exploitation, where the pursuit of understanding often comes at the cost of unity and stability.